Today we're looking at 9488 Cambridge A-Levels Islamic Studies, and we're going to look at the paper patterns, the question pattern, which you can really analyze and see here. And using this pattern, you can predict what question you can expect in your exam paper in this setting. So as you can see here, for paper 1, we're looking at question number 1, and as you can see in the keynotes, all of the questions in this section, they're required to be answered. There's no option, and it consists of a total of 25 marks. The weightage of it is 12.5% of the total A-level grade and 25% of the AS level grade. So there's going to be 3 questions always. The first one's going to be 5 marker, and the next 2 are going to be 10 and 10 marks. And usually the pattern goes as they ask you about a Quranic ayah, which comes under your syllabus, and then they ask you about a hadith, which also comes under your syllabus. So in the prescribed syllabus over here, as you can see, there are 10 ayahs which you need to be aware of, and then there are also 10 set of hadith texts which you need to be aware of. Okay, so the thing over here, there's a pattern over here which, if you understand, it's going to make it so much easier for you in your exam paper. They'll always ask you about a Quranic ayah, and then they'll always ask you about a hadith. And usually there's a third question they give you over there, and this question, you can always reference these 2 points in this question. Okay, so you can use this Quranic ayah and you can use this hadith and reference both of these things into this, because this topic, whatever they give you, it's always related to the Quranic ayah and it's always related to the hadith which they ask you. And now one thing to mention is that over here you can see in the question that they're only telling you to describe the teachings from Quran 31:14 and 15. Now you might be wondering if you need to remember this. No, in the past paper they will be giving you this ayah, and the same goes for the hadith. You'll have hadith 316 in there in the paper, so you don't need to remember these hadiths according to the number. Okay, so let me show you. In this one, Quran 31:14, 15, if you look on it on the other side, this is talking about parents, and hadith 316 talks about parents also. And then if you look at the third point, it says Muslims should obey their parents in everything. Now automatically you can refer to the Quran ayah which they have given you. You can also refer to the hadith, okay, and the points from it. So this is basically, you're looking at free marks over here. You automatically have 2 references available. Now if you look at all of the next questions which come, this pattern, it's always there. So look at it. So the next question, Quran 17:34. 17:34 comes under treatment of orphans, and we have hadith 309. 309 comes under neighbors. Now it's not always going to be as obvious as question number 1, like it was parents hadith and a parents ayah, and the question was also referring to parents. It's not going to be ABC like that, no. So this one, it's going to be slightly more different, and you're going to have to connect the line yourself. So let's look at it. So there's neighbors, there's orphans, and let's see what the third point is. So the third point is, to what extent does Islam promote social care? Now you can agree that neighbors do come under social care, and so do orphans. So easily you can refer to these 2 points in question C, and you're easily looking at least like 5 marks you're getting just from that. Okay, so that's literally giving you free marks over there. Let's look at it in the next question too. So this one's slightly, you need to connect the line over there, but let's look at it. 31:17. 31:17 is coming under prayer and avoiding arrogance, and the set hadith they give is 27. So 27 comes under sabr. Okay, perseverance. So Muslims should show patience in all circumstances in their lives. Okay, so easily you can say, you can refer to hadith 27, which is sabr, and 31:17, the ayah is about prayer and avoiding arrogance. So now I can say that avoiding arrogance comes under sabr, okay, to have patience. So you have to connect the line there, but always you can use these 2 references in your answer in the third one. Okay, if you really want a deep dive into all of these questions, how to structure them, how to maximize your marks, because this is a 10 marker questions, but going on further, there will be 15 marker questions, and the maximum it goes to is a 25 marker question, which comes in paper 4. So there is an outline to all of these questions, and there is a pattern which you can easily follow to understand and to really maximize your marks over here. And once you really get this pattern, it's going to be really easy for you to understand which sections to really focus on, to really study on. So I guess we can establish here that 25 marks are worth for you to study all 10 points of the study set text from the Quran and the study of set hadith text. Okay, so these two sections, they're worth 25 marks, and that is weighing 25% of the AS level grade and 12.5% of the total A level grade, which is a very significant amount. So these points, these chapters in the syllabus, they're very important for you to really focus on. So that's question 1, and let's look at question 2 next. And also these notes over here, we sell these in our website at examhive.shop. So if you want resources for this exam, we are also developing a crash course for this, which will be available very soon to purchase on our website. You can go there, you can buy the resources, you can buy the videos. We will be launching for more subjects in A levels and a lot more. Okay, so now we're looking at question 2 and 3 of paper 1. So now only one question is required to be answered in this question. You can choose between either only answering question 2 or only answering question 3. And there's 2 parts to each question. So the first one is a 10 marker and the second one is a 15 marker. Now you probably would have watched the question 1 of paper 1, and there was a very obvious pattern to it, but that doesn't actually repeat in section B of it. Okay, so there isn't a very generic pattern here, but there is one thing which you can see and you can refer to in every single question, and that is, if you look on the right hand side, you see that there's a section called main beliefs. Now these points, they're very important. Okay, so you can refer to any one of these in any single question. Okay, you can use this as a reference point, you can use it to build up on your answer, because it is a 10 and a 15 marker, so you can easily use these points, which are like a very basic foundation of Islam in the main beliefs area. So we're looking at part 1, and you can see it says explain the purposes of fasting during Ramadan. Now I have pulled up the main belief section from our notes, and as you can see that you can really look at it, and in learning objectives it says you need to make links. Objective number 2 is make links between beliefs and actions and reference examples from the 5 pillars of Islam. So over here the question is asking about Ramadan. Now Ramadan comes under fasting, so you can see over here that in Tawheed, over here in actions, like praying, fasting, and giving zakah should be done purely for Allah's sake and not to impress others. So that comes under Tawheed, oneness of God, on why we fast in Ramadan and what one of the purposes of fasting is. So all of these items which come here in section 2, they can be interlinked to the main beliefs, and you need to do that. You need to do that because that is a learning objective which comes under the syllabus, and that is what the examiner is looking at you from. Okay, so it could be that when you look at the purposes of fasting during Ramadan, you might come up with generic answers, and it's a 10 marker question, so you can't do that. You need to know that there are like these specific set points, and the good thing is main beliefs, they're not a lot. So let's count 1 2 3 4 5 6. So there's only 6 of them. So if you look at it, and there are only 6 points, and each of them have like 5 points in them, so you can easily understand that, memorize that, have it in your mind, and you know as soon as you open question 2 and 3 of paper 1, you need to quickly be writing down that, okay, this main belief applies, this main belief applies, this main belief applies, and I can use that, and you can really use that to build up your answer and to really maximize your points. There isn't a very set pattern over here, but if you do go back and look at the syllabus of section B of paper 1, always there's a question on either of these areas. So it's either going to be on purification, intention, act of devotion and commitment, or putting faith into action. So you need to be fluent in all of these areas to make sure that you're getting a good question, because again, one section is equal to 25 marks, and again that is 12.5% of the total A level grade and 25% of the AS level grade if you're only giving paper 1 and 2. So that is a very significant amount, so you need to make sure that you are really going through these sections, and main beliefs is your most important one. You can refer to main beliefs in any point, and that is very, very important. So that's the pattern for this side. Now let's go to paper 2 and look at the questions we have over there. Okay, so now we're here with paper 2, and this is question 1 and 2 of paper 2. Now you have a choice. You can either answer question 1 or you can answer question 2. Again, it's a bit of a repetitive pattern. It's a 25 marker, and this section is a 25 marker, and this pattern over here we're looking at, it's similar to paper 1 question 1. The first question is a 5 marker, the following ones are 10 marks. Now usually all of these questions, they're interrelated and the topic is usually the same. So let's look at the first question. It says state 5 jobs which a Muslim might not do. The second question asks about guidance given in Islamic law about employment. So again, it's about employment. And the third question, it says that analogy, it's the most useful source of Islamic fiqh for today. So you can discuss this statement with reference to different points of view. So one thing you want to look at over here is that on the right side, we have the syllabus. So now there are three different points, okay? So usually what you're going to see over here is that either of the two questions, they're going to be related to either worship, family life, or finance and employment. So you need to be fluent in these three areas. And then usually what the third question would usually come from application of Islamic law or the sources of Islamic law, okay? And application of Islamic law, it's basically these three sections, but we are comparing and contrasting in these, and we're looking at the different points of view, the different opinions, and all of that stuff. It comes under application of Islamic law. And sources of Islamic law, it kind of talks about where the Sharia really comes from, the sources, and the secondary sources, what you can do with the analogy, reasoning, and all of these very technical things, issues of hadith, and all of this. So these 2 points, these are very, very important in building up your answers, because again, your 2 next questions are 10 markers, and you need content to really build it up, because if you give a very generic answer, you're looking at maximum 4 to 5 marks, if not 3 to 4. So to make it a 10 marker question, you need these 2 sections, and that is very, very important, that you in the next 2 10 marker questions, you're referring to points from sources of Islamic law, and if not, you can also refer to the Quranic ayahs or the hadith text which you studied in for paper 1. That's going to be very good. You can get extra points easily for that. And one thing to remember is that reference numbers, they don't matter. So if you are using a hadith, you don't need to say that this is hadith number this. No, that's okay. You can generically say Sahih Bukhari, and if you're not even aware of that, it's still okay. You do not need to reference. That's not credited, and you're wasting your time if you're trying to memorize some specific numbers or something like that. So you don't need to do that. So the main thing over here is that you really need to build up your answer using these 2 sections, and your question might come from either worship, family life, or finance and employment. And you can see that if you look at the questions which are coming. And there isn't a very specific pattern over here like there was in paper 1. It is a lot more vague, but if you really focus on the building up of your question and really outlining it properly, then you can easily maximize your marks. And again, okay, so as you can see here, now we're looking at paper 2 question number 3 and 4, and again, it's an option. You can either answer question 3 or you can either answer question 4. There's 2 parts to each question. One is a 10 marker and one is a 15 marker. Now there isn't a specific pattern in this paper again, but there are some things which you can really look into so that you can maximize your marks. So on the right hand side, you can see the syllabus, and there are 3 points to this, okay? So the first one is the oneness of God, Tawheed. The next one is the role of religious leaders, and then there's judgment and afterlife. These are the 3 areas which the questions might be referring to. And the third point, distinctive positions of Islamic schools. This is basically a comparison of these 3 areas, and we compare and contrast according to the different sects of like Salafi, Sunni, Shia, and the Mutazila, and all of these. So you need to compare and contrast according to these. So that is a requirement in the syllabus, that you should be able to compare and contrast. So if you look at it on this side with the questions over here, in order to earn the 15 marks and full 10 marks, you really need to look at all the parties and to give opinions regarding different parties, different sects, the difference of opinion there is. You should be able to give comparisons on how this is the same in this sect, but it is different in this sect. And that is how you're going to build up your answer and get there to 15 marks or 10 marks. So the main aspect of this section, which is the last section of paper 2, is to be able to compare and contrast between different parties. You need to have the basic knowledge, which is given again in the first 3 chapters, and then be able to compare and contrast. And that's how you're going to build up your answer. And to really gain the maximum marks, you need to be aware of the different points of view. And that's all there is to paper 2.